Welcome to Impact Masters Podcast in collaboration with Africa's Talking Retold Podcast, where every conversation sparks new insights. Join us as we delve into the stories of extraordinary individuals who are shaping our world. Movers and shakers in tech, policymakers, entrepreneurs, entertainers, and all those whose stories are worth telling. Get ready to be inspired, challenged, and transformed. Welcome, and let's embark on this journey of discovery together. Impact Masters Podcast. You can check us out on all social media platforms. You can also find us across all podcast channels. Simply search for Impact Masters, then subscribe, follow, and share. www.impactmasters.io. Here's your host, Michael Kamathi.
Thank you so much for the Ubuntu philosophy, which means you are because I am. A while back when Victoria wrote the afterword for my book, I Am From Teddy Warrior. Mm-hmm. So people ask me why I have a title of book called I Am From Teddy Warrior. They don't realize my father was called Teddy Warrior. So I'm really from Teddy Warrior. Mm-hmm. And one very profound thing when you're writing the afterword, Victoria, in my book, you wrote about the idea of the other. But you also fundamentally say that we are who we are because of our basic connectedness. Yeah. And in fact, the truth of living is in being connected. But we're being connected in the sense that we pour into each other's glasses so that our glasses may be full and whole. And with that, we start healing ourselves. And for the continent of Africa, even from the first time that either the colonialists came here or explorers came here, they found a very welcoming community and people, because inherently that is what we are. Mm-hmm. And you didn't need to book a place to stay. You're always greeted with a glass of water or a calabash of porridge, depending on where you went to. And at the very basis of it, this is all about humanity. Mm-hmm. And given the situation that we're going on even right now in Kenya, we can emphasize the idea of compassionate listening. And compassionate listening doesn't mean you're just listening for the sake of listening.
No.
But you're listening to understand, and you're listening to make the community and yourself whole.
And to feel.
And to feel what the other person would feel. And in fact, for majority of people who may be listening to this and also professing their faith as Christians, the Bible, as a standard book, states that love, the golden rule being, love your neighbor as you love yourself. But the same Bible also tells us that we can do greater things than Christ did. So when MK asked me about the idea of Ubuntu, I could also say in full measure that love your neighbor the way your neighbor would like to be loved. So that I could call it as a platinum rule. In essence, if you think that you love me and you give me so much sugar, and for example, in that case, I could be diabetic, and you think loading me with cake and ice cream is a show of love for me, but it could actually essentially be killing me. Yeah. So you're not loving me the way I would like to be loved. And that's the message I'd like at this time for Kenyans, especially as we remember the sons and daughters who passed on. And there's a memorial service on this Sunday at Uhuru Park, which is incidentally in Swahili means the Park of Freedom. Or to play with the words, you're doing the way you are rearranging words, or the Freedom Park. So how can you have a freedom park and you're celebrating death, which essentially means the ceasing of existence or the ceasing of life? But nonetheless, we'll be having it on Sunday. And the way my country has been, because even today, in the afternoon, we had the privilege of seeing the Turukana boy. It just emphasizes that it all started here. But it doesn't mean that it has to end here. So we can learn from the best all over the world, Like you'll be traveling to Rwanda in the next few days. When I went there and they use culture and arts and traditional methods of resolving conflict, I'm like, don't Kenyans see that almost 30 years ago in 1994, our neighbors fell to killing each other or massacring each other based on several things that led them to that point. So at this point, as you'd stated, the universe has spoken. It has given Kenya a chance for people to dialogue.
Yeah.
And dialogue, we're known to be best in M-Pesa, which is one of our best mobile money platforms. And it's always a two-way process. The person who sends and the person who receives. So naturally, because we bear the gene of the mitochondrial Eve, meaning that life started in Kenya, we have the whole idea of being the mother of mothers. You see that? And what a good mother does, and in fact, in the situation that we had recently, I was only praying that mothers could call our president, our MPs, their mothers, and just tell them, guys, listen to these kids. Because at your school where there are more than 90 kids from all over the world, or 200 and something from more than 90 countries, I enjoyed thoroughly having the dinners with the kids from all over Kenya, all over the world.
Yes.
And just hearing their experiences. Some countries I never even heard about. But I met them just because they were much younger than I was, of course. But just listening to them, I learned so much.
Yes.
And with that, you can, even things that you thought were dark, you can shed some light on it. And with the spirit of Ubuntu, the president has given access to a forum that the youth can be involved. But I wish that he could also let them, instead of just like my book, I Am From, I could have decided to ask these kids to write what I wanted them to write. But I told them I only gave them a template or a vessel and a framework, which is I Am From framework. And they actually wrote for me their world, their thoughts, and their person. And they've turned out to be brilliant. So that's what I'd like to encourage the Generation Z at this moment. And like you, I don't believe that this Generation Z, Alpha, I meet people as human beings first and foremost. And that also goes to what I believe as religion, is that first and foremost, people are human, and I have to meet them at that point.
Yeah.
So I believe in Ubuntu. In my native language, the Luo would say one Kanyakla, which means we're in this together. And had you come, say, to my village in Kisumu, the biggest billboard says Warua Kidala, which literally means we wear you and we welcome you as we wear you, so that you become part and parcel of us. So thank you, MK, for asking that. And I pray and hope that Africa and Kenya brings back the spirit of Ubuntu to the world, especially at this time where things are volatile and where we have a leadership crisis. In fact, in Kenya, I don't think we have a leadership crisis. We have a constitutional crisis. And people need to adhere to the Constitution, especially the integrity clause, which is chapter 6, and also live by values, not values that are written down in the Constitution, but the values that our ancestors lived on for millions of years.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Teddy. Anything you want to say on that?
No, it's incredibly powerful.
Yeah.
And it's one of the reasons I was so excited to write the afterword for Teddy's book. I guess I would say this. Teddy sent me the electronic copy of I Am From. And when I opened it, I read the first couple of poems and I found myself crying. And I wondered, why am I crying? And I thought, because these young people, they know themselves. And again, they're whole. They're whole. So how do we make sure not to fracture that? And, you know, part of that is making sure that we do communicate to them fully that they are a part of something, that they matter, that they have deep, deep value. And, you know, as leaders, I think it's easy to fail at that because you've got a lot of concerns. You know, you are working on the infrastructure.
Yeah.
Right? You are making sure that the budget is made and that you can turn the lights on and that you can provide that scholarship to that deserving student. You're focused on those things. And it's easy to get so caught up in that, that we lose sight of being with somebody. And when we lose sight of being with somebody, we don't really enter their world as other. And you lose a lot. But when you do enter that world, I think the most amazing and transformative thing that can happen is that, yes, you recognize the difference, but you recognize what you have in common.
Yeah.
You recognize the sameness and you realize we all want the same things.
Yeah.
And it's not an either or, and it's not an us and them. We can actually do that together. There's enough. I think we live with a mentality of scarcity. If you get this, I don't.
Zero-sum game.
Zero-sum game. But who made that up? That's just a story.
Yeah.
That's a narrative that we've internalized. It's like we've eaten it and it's part of us and we believe it. But who says?
Yeah.
Why can't we divide it?
Yeah.
Or even better, multiply it by taking pieces and giving to everybody. That's a kind of multiplication. So the stories we tell ourselves are a function of whether we take the time to be with one another. And I think leadership has a real challenge at whatever level with finding that time when there are so many pressing matters. But, you know, when I'm at my best, I remember that's one of the pressing things is to be with people. The people that I'm trying to lead and to support and provide for.
And that's the fundamental foundation of humanity. And this actually brings another question that is quite really interesting about the modern world or even the education as we know it. And I've had this conversation off the microphone whereby we diverse and dissect the essence of education as a brainwashing machine to make people think the same way, judge the same way, and even graduate to go to do the same things, which even fundamentally is a lie. As much as all of us make one thing, but all of us actually provide different aspect of that one thing. And I like how we talked about CBC curriculum, which meets you where you are. But in essence, all these generations that have been made to compete for one thing, do it the same way, learn the same things. And if you're not thinking outside the box and be curious enough, you may never learn anything else. And you get stuck there, even when things change. And I feel even, boomers and the rest of the leaders who are in crisis of understanding the newer generation is because they know this is the way to do things. And if I'm a president, if I'm a prime minister, whichever position I am in, if you don't agree with me, you are enemy of the state. Rather than taking it in an essence that, maybe this adds to what we already have and we can actually innovate together. And I don't know how we can really change that because it would take time. It needs a lot of patience. It needs a different thinking. And I like what UWC is doing. It's because that's actually differently approached from the art and culture, philosophy, and that creates new wisdom. So with the current education system, I'm not so absolutely sure how we're going to address some of these things. But as you speak about this, I would like also for you to speak about element 6 dynamics and tell us more about it.
Yes. So element 6 dynamics was started by an absolutely wonderful visionary by the name of Stephen Gluckstern. And Stephen had a profound experience having his first grandchild. And realized that, he'd spent his life as an entrepreneur and realized there was a single concern that had to be addressed for every grandfather and grandmother and every person who cares about another generation coming behind. And that was the problem of climate change. And so he also recognized that, people don't get excited about business that doesn't bring profit. And he started researching hemp as a crop, which in 2018 was made legal. It was illegal prior to that in the United States. And Mitch McConnell, senator from Kentucky, who was an unlikely champion of something like hemp, which is very closely associated, with marijuana, cannabis. He championed it because tobacco was one of the major crops in Kentucky and was going the way of the dinosaur, less smoking, less need for tobacco. Started to look at hemp because of its many uses. Hemp can be used as a replacement for many of the ingredients that go into paper, for example, because it can replace soft wood, which means less deforestation, right? But it can replace as well some of its residual some of its residues can replace petroleum-based ingredients. And so he started down the road with a company called Santa Fe Farms, and we became Element 6 Dynamics and now have partnered with a company called Packs out of Germany. And basically, we're looking to transform packaging and paper by replacing softwood pulp with hemp. And the exciting thing about this is that hemp is an incredible carbon sequesterer. It's also an incredible crop for being able to rotate with other crops. So it adds a great deal of value to the soil. And it doesn't use more or much more water than something like corn, a crop that's widely grown in the States. And it has incredible number of multiple uses. And the great news is that Element 6 Dynamics is essentially creating the model for supplying hemp for various uses in industry. And what I love about being a part of this is that, we've failed forward. We've had several challenges. We've got a great CEO, Kim Kovacs, an amazing board that sees the value of what this could be for the world. I mean, think about the packaging that you use. Think about when you open something up, how much of that gets thrown away. What if that really were sustainable instead of polluting our waterways and our children? I mean, think about plastic. Recently, there was a study that each one of us is essentially ingesting the equivalent of a plastic credit card a week. Think about that. You have been eating 4 credit cards a month. I have been eating 4 credit cards a month just because of the plastic that's in the environment. And hemp really has an opportunity to start contributing to packaging in ways that move us away from that kind of plastic packaging. So I'm just really excited to be part of this. And, like any startup, it could be the next huge thing and it could fail miserably. But if we don't innovate, if we don't try, if we don't follow what's good for the planet at the same time that we demonstrate that it can be profitable, we'll never make change. Because it can be the best thing for the planet. And if it's not profitable, it won't get investment. And so partly what I love about being part of this company is that we're getting past that either or mentality that stops us in our tracks in every part of life. Right? If it's either or, then it's my way or your way, no relationship. If it's my way or your way, there's no compromise. If it's profitable or good for the environment, then there's no improvement and we're looking at a planet that's dying. But we don't have to think in terms of either or. And that's what I love about being part of this company.
And the price is huge to pay.
Yeah.
So do you think this has influenced your strategic vision for UWC?
It has actually, and it's a challenge because UWC curriculum is the International Baccalaureate, and the International Baccalaureate is extremely rigorous and takes a great deal of our students' time. So I can just hear some of our students, listening to this saying, yeah, but when do we get a chance to do that? Because we have to study so hard. And of course, the reminder is this is only one part of your education. You're going to take what you're learning and you're going to do more with it. Because guess what? This isn't a transaction, and you're not, and my return on investment isn't when you receive your diploma.
Yeah.
It's years later when you're seeing things differently and doing things differently because of the education that you attended to.
Yeah.
But I think too, strategically for me, what it makes me think about it, I guess it goes back to the how versus the what. It makes me realize that as we do the work of the International Baccalaureate, we can be focused on some of the major issues that our students and all of us are facing.
Yeah.
Issues like polarization, issues like inequality, issues like climate crisis. And if we do that where we are in a place-based way, here's the how. While doing the IB, not adding something new, but really looking through the lens of some of these issues that these students are going to face day one as they enter the workforce, as they themselves become entrepreneurs and innovators. Then we're doing something rich with the education. Doesn't mean leaving the IB. It means approaching that content through a lens that is immediate and that is relevant right here, right now, and facing the 21st century as it unfolds. And I think that's a place where I feel like thinking strategically about, okay, how do you replace some of these materials? How do you cut down fewer trees? And what kind of crop could do that? And what kind of opportunities for different kinds of products are there with this incredibly adaptable crop?
Yeah.
That kind of thinking is thinking how to do something differently than we have. You're still doing the what. You're still making packaging.
Yeah.
You're still, you still need to put things in something.
Yeah.
But do you have to cut down a forest to do that? Actually, you don't. You can rotate hemp with other crops.
Yeah.
The farmers win. The planet wins. The shareholders win. Everybody wins.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
That is possible if we are willing to think outside that proverbial box that was made with all of that tree fiber, right? Like we can do that.
Yeah, absolutely. And here brings us to, you as a leader, you're also a person. And
as it turns out.
And I would love to know a couple of things about you as a person. And one of those is your personal and professional goals for the future. And also, how do you see them impacting your leadership at UWC? Yeah.
So professional goals, I think, are really tied to becoming a better listener and better at following through on the insights I gain by listening without getting stopped by the constant challenges of the day-to-day, but to really learn how to implement based on what I learn and hear from others in ways that have lasting impact, not just in the moment. So it's really, as a leader, balancing the immediate needs of the day-to-day and the long-term opportunity to get someplace that is truly transformative.
Yes.
And in some ways, personally, I think it's pretty simple. I want to become a more human being every day. And I want to make space, not only for the people I love, but for people who irritate me.
Yeah.
And who I'm not necessarily, in a place where it's obvious. I mean, with my kids, with my husband, with my 87-year-old mother, it gives me great joy to make space and to really hear them.
Yeah.
Not always if someone's coming at me strong and not in a flattering way, right? That can be really tough.
Yeah.
But I just want to keep deepening my humanity because that's it. That's what we're born with and that's what we die with.
Yeah. And I love that. And I love it from
it's enough.
3 angles, indeed.
Yeah.
And, this word is love. As we started talking, we started with if we had more love for anything, we would actually live prosperous, purposeful life. But you see, life is made of 3 components. There's mind, there's body, and there's soul. How can we accomplish this with your experience and even, interaction with different, diverse people in nurturing that so that we're not only loving from external, but also internally, we really, full. We have a cup that we can pour to others.
Yeah. I think it probably starts with awareness.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's something I've had to really work on, especially in terms of myself.
Yeah.
I tend to be very focused on what needs doing and what needs attention or fixing. And I remember once my son said to me, like, Mama, what would life be like if you stopped just pushing through it?
Yeah.
And it took me a heartbeat to think, what does that even mean? Like, of course, that's what you do. You push through it. But I think the insight was, what if you were just to be with it, whether the it is something hard, something painful, or something, that you just need to get through. What if you just sat with it? And so I think awareness is the first thing.
Yeah.
That you really have to register what's going on with yourself, but also with others and with a community. And it's very easy to skip past registering when you're the fixer in chief, right? When you're the problem solver in chief. Oh no, I've got to figure out how to deal with that, right? Versus resting with it. I'll give you an example. I remember during the fires, my strategic leadership team, which was making those decisions with me every day. And we were sitting at the table and I noticed at one point that everyone had erupted in some way. Sometimes it was tears.
Yeah.
Sometimes someone raised their voice. Sometimes someone was just interrupting constantly. And I remember going home that night and telling my husband, I have not felt anything since this started. Literally, I have not felt a thing. And I'm worried it's compromising my decisions because I'm watching my team hurting and worrying. And I'm basically like just in the back of my mind thinking, oh, look, just push through it. We've got to figure this out now.
Yeah.
Right. And so I don't know if any of you have done acupuncture, but I think acupuncture is profound medicine. And so I went to the acupuncturist and I said, listen, I haven't felt anything since I've been dealing with this.
Yeah.
And I just want to do an acupuncture session that helps me to like release some of this
pressure,
whatever it is, this pressure that's not letting itself go.
Yeah.
So she did the acupuncture session.
Yeah.
And during it, I just started pouring tears. I mean, literally just pouring tears. But then when I left, I was still pouring tears. So I called her back and I said, can you reverse that? Because I don't know how I'm going to walk into a meeting, trying to deal with questions of exams and, whether we're going to send kids home and what are we going to do? And I don't think I can go in if I'm just pouring tears. But it was really one of those moments where it was like, you've got to be aware of where you are before you can serve others.
Yeah.
And I never really understood that until some of the crisis management that we've done. You've probably heard the expression, put your oxygen mask on first and then you put it on someone else. And as a mother, that just used to irritate me.
Yeah.
Like, what mother puts her oxygen mask on first? You slap that mask on that baby first, right?
Yeah.
But then I really get it, right? If you can't breathe,
your child can't breathe too.
then you can't get the mask to your child.
Yeah.
But it took me a very long time
Yeah.
to understand that. And I think awareness is the first step. And it took my child to teach me that, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
We as parents think, oh, my job is to teach my children everything.
Yeah.
Oh, no. If you're always teaching your children, you're not getting the best out of being a parent, which is learning from them.
Yeah.
Because they come with their own wisdom. They know things that we've forgotten.
Yeah. And in this chaotic and, a lot is happening in the world, it's very easy to disconnect from the spiritual and the soul.
Yeah.
How do you keep it connected?
I don't know. I think the spiritual just stays with me.
Yeah?
Yeah. I think I'm very blessed that way.
Yeah.
I'm always aware of myself in relationship to something larger and something deeper.
Absolutely.
And it's, part of it is still having my mother in the world at 87 and seeing her become more fragile.
Yeah.
And recognizing how fragile life is.
Yeah.
And being blessed with a big family where there are usually babies coming along.
Yeah.
That also reminds you how much hope there is and how much possibility.
Yeah.
So I think it's being part of family. I think that's a great place for me to, recognize the spiritual. And then just, those moments of leadership can be very lonely. And, sometimes, people always say, oh, we want vulnerable leaders. And then you show any vulnerability and it's like, oh, you're weak.
Out.
You're a weak leader. It's like, wait a minute, what was vulnerability? Like, how does vulnerability become weak that quickly?
Yeah.
And if you're a woman, it's even trickier, right?
Yeah.
Right? A man who shows vulnerability, oh, that's so impressive. A woman is like, oh, she can't stand up to the job, right? So I find that it's really important to go into myself, and that is the place of spirit where you, I don't know, it's a kind of tapping into something that is deeper than what people can observe. And all of us have that in us.
Absolutely. So I don't know which camera you're going to look at. I think it's this one. So it can be advice that you could give yourself when you're 5 years old. It could be an advice that you like someone who is so young and so ambitious as you are and looking to create something new and curious and ready to face the world, and tell them, how should that look like?
Oh, nice. I think I'd say to both, don't worry about whether you belong at the table. Just sit down and take your place. And don't take anybody else's place. Just take the one only you can take and give as much as you get. And it'll all be okay.
Amazing. That's quite deep and powerful. And as I've learned from Spice FM, for those who listen to different leaders who come and dissect raw conversation about what is going on and what could be better, we have made it a habit to conclude with African proverb. And since love is quite an amazing thing, if it's nurtured and taken care of, I'd like to finish with an African proverb. Love, like rain, does not choose the grass on which it falls. Do not treat your loved one like a swinging door. You are fond of it, but you push it back and forth. Love yourself, love others, and love what you do. Thank you so much for joining us. Subscribe, share, like, and ensure that you leave a review. And if you like our guests, please let us know so that we can keep bringing this kind of impact master as well as Africa to continue talking. Until next time, stay inspired and keep making the impacts.
And that's a wrap on today's episode of Impact Masters. Thank you for tuning in and sharing this space of growth and empowerment with us.